shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the cycles of His righteousness for His name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley I
Yes, you are with us. And
All right.
something that you can write on.
This is from Sirach.
Ecclesiasticus.
Ecclesiasticus. Second chapter. My son, if thou come to serve Yahuwah, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright, and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. Cleave unto him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully. Let me read that again. We don't do too well in that area, right?
Nope.
Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient, when thou art changed to a low estate. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him. Ye that fear Yahuwah, wait for his mercy, and go not aside, lest ye fall. Ye that fear Yahuwah, believe him, and your reward shall not fail. Ye that fear Yahuwah, hope for good, and for everlasting joy and peace. Look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in Yahuwah and was confounded? Or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For Yahuwah is full of compassion and mercy, long-suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction. Woe be to the fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience. And what will ye do when Yahuwah shall visit you? They that fear Yahuwah will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. They that fear Yahuwah will seek that which is well, pleasing unto him. And they that love him shall be filled with the law. They that fear Yahuwah will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight, saying, we will fall into the hands of Yahuwah and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. That's a lot.
It's a lot of meat.
That's a lot of meat. A lot of milk in there too. You know, we have these lessons that we come and we learn every week. And so I want to kind of make sure that we understand why we're doing what we do. Right? Sometimes a little refresher is good. So the definition of a lesson is, according to this dictionary that I found, a passage from sacred writings read in a service or worship, a piece of instruction, a reading or exercise to be studied by a pupil. We're all supposed to be learning Torah. We're learning the ancient paths and the ancient ways. A division of a course of instruction. Sometimes we break things up, right? One teacher 1 week, another week. And so we sometimes need to go back and revisit these things because typically we don't get it the first time around. We got to go back and watch the video again. First thing I normally do after I teach a lesson or somebody teaches a lesson is go back and review the lesson. Take a little, some bullet points, some takeaways is what they call it. Something learned by study or experience. We're all at different stages in life, right? We all got different experiences that we can relate to the Word. And so we want to hinge our experiences to what we're reading in Torah or in any of the scriptures and apply it so that we can grow, right? Bear more fruit. That's the whole theme, is to get better, not get worse, right? Work toward repenting and work to being good and bearing much fruit versus continuing in our dysfunction. An instructive example, and so we have a lot of examples in scriptures, right? Good examples, whether the person has done good or whether they've done wickedness, it's always an example. And sometimes there's those lessons where it's a reprimand, right? Like, I've had those. You know, we all have them growing up. I was telling Charmin that the jalapeno pepper that she gave me, I took it home and I wanted the seeds out of it, so I started cutting that thing up, and I just touched my mouth just a little bit. Just a little bit. Man, my tongue started, my mouth started getting numb and I started coughing. And then I remember when I was a little boy, I would always go into my mama's purse and get this little mint spray. But she also had this other little spray in there. I was kind of curious as to what that was.
Mace.
So I sprayed it in the room. My eyes started burning. I went downstairs. My mom was like, "You sprayed it!" They had to open the windows. We all had to go outside. And I got a reprimand, right? But yeah, me growing up was my typical thing. One of the first lessons that I think I taught kind of successfully, or at least it was a good story, a good backdrop, was be careful for what you reach for. Because you might be catching hell. So we know that this young man was innocent. Went to the ballpark to see his favorite team play World Series, and all he did was reach up to catch the ball, and now this man's had to live in hiding for the rest of his life. If you weren't here for the lesson, look it up. It's called Catching Hell, Steve Barton. Since I've taught this lesson, could you say that there's some things that maybe in life you should not have reached for? Oh, y'all, really?
Yes.
Oh, my, really?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. So I taught you the lesson so that you're going to reach for those things. No, we're all guilty, right?
Yes.
We're all guilty.
Chips.
Everybody ready to put your hand up? Because I'm going to ask the question first, but I already know what the answer is.
Okay.
So everybody put your hand up.
Keep it up.
Keep it up. Because the second one I taught on is be careful what you say. Now, how many of us wish that we could take these words back? Oh yeah, all of us. We are all in the same boat. Man, it's a hard thing to control, this tongue.
Yes.
I mean, it's very difficult because sometimes we allow our emotions, or we just forget. It takes discipline. I was sitting there, and while I was putting this together, a couple was in front of our apartment, and they were having an argument. Now, it wasn't even an argument. She was winning the argument. He didn't have a leg to stand on, but she gave him the business in front of the whole complex very loud for about 15 minutes. And she was right, and I didn't even know him. But I knew that she was right by what she was saying. And so I said, you know what? Let me go take out the trash. I'm gonna stroll on over there and bump into them and introduce them to some Torah, right? Because I know they need it, right? And the Most High made them disappear before I got there. Hallelujah, right? Because you got to be ready to receive it.
Yeah.
That's part of that lesson. Your heart has to be prepared to receive a lesson. And so sometimes what we've learned is when we're trying to introduce people to Torah, to the instructions, You're just not ready to receive it. Not interested. Would rather keep banging their head up against the wall, you know. And what we're all there. We're all in different places, right? Then I taught this lesson on seeds. Anybody remember anything about this lesson? Oh, you do? What do you remember, Texas?
I remember that you can plant good seeds and bad seeds, like tares and weeds.
Come on, man.
I don't know whose son that is, but
Howdy. Whose boy is that?
I see what you did.
And words are seeds, right? So there's a huge responsibility with the words that we use. Yeah. Sometimes we judge a person by the outside and not consider the inside. Right? We don't consider some of the things that they've been through. We can do some damage with the words that we use. I'm guilty of it. Any of y'all guilty of it? Oh, only a few this time? It's the Shabbat, be honest, okay?
I'm probably guilty for all of you.
How about this one? Wisdom and foolishness.
Yeah.
Okay, can somebody tell me what they learned from it? Or what they remember?
He's got his hands up.
He's got his hand up.
Wisdom is having the application of the Torah,
Application of the Torah.
being able to walk it out and to instruct others on what you are able to walk out.
I think he's punting. Can you give me something more specific to the lesson?
Not at the moment.
I can.
I don't know. What is it?
You said that in the lesson you were saying that wisdom is like when you see somebody do something, or like a lesson is taught and you don't have to experience it yourself. Like you can actually watch, like you see a person and you listen to what they're saying versus you having to experience it yourself.
That's right.
That's what wife that is.
That was brought to us by Antoine. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
And so you don't have to learn, you can learn from other people's
Yes.
mistakes, is what he was saying. That's wisdom. You don't have to jump off the bridge and know that ain't good. Right? You remember this one?
Yes, I would say.
Talking about complaining, right? When we look at the scripture, it really just makes your problems kind of shrink up a little bit. And the anguish that this little boy had to. And our hearts go out for him because we know he's not alone. That's just how our people were treated. And I appeal to you, brothers, by the name of your master, Yahushua, our Messiah, that you all agree and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be knitted together in the same mind and in the same opinion. That's what we're striving for. Not an easy assignment because we're so diverse. We all have different experiences, but we're all here, right? And now we're trying to put the square peg in the round hole, and it's going to take some patience. It's going to take some long suffering towards one another. We just read about patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. So I know you defined, or someone defined wisdom as being able to learn from someone else's mistake. But in reference to wisdom, it's not only just learning from someone else's mistake, but being identified when there is a mistake being made by someone else. It's also being able to identify when you make a mistake and to be able to repent of it based on trouble.
Lesson over. You can close it up.
Yeah. How about forgiveness? Anybody remember anything about this one?
Yeah.
You? You're the only one paying attention.
No.
Forgiveness is It's not for the other person, it's more so for you than the other person.
Yeah. I know that there's often will say, well, we can't forgive them until they repent, right? And come back and ask. But I know that Mashiach said to the Father, he said, forgive them, Father, for what they've done, right? And nobody went to him. So it's really a heart issue, right? But I think we should be quick to forgive one another, right? Not keep in mind that how you measure it out is how it's going to be measured back to you. Right?
You said in that lesson too that you pointed out the 70 times 7, and you were showing us how, like, if a person, they do one thing, and then the next minute they do another thing, but it's just a different thing.
That's
But then
right.
they say sorry, but then they do another thing.
That's right.
And then so it's just like it can be over and over and over again. And we
Right.
tried to calculate it, and it was like we couldn't even get the number
Yeah.
of what that was.
Well, you can get the number, but the expression is that it's unlimited.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to use a little wisdom. So, they come back to you and you forgive them, then you move. Okay, so when they come back to that house, ain't nobody home. Okay? You gotta use a little wisdom. You gotta take yourself out of the equation.
Now, how does that forgiveness, you can clarify something for me. When we're talking forgiveness against our brother and sister, our
Yes.
brethren.
Yes.
Not forgiving, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Like
So there's a
the Ku Klux
difference.
Klan,
Yeah.
right?
Boom, when we're talking about
Right.
forgive.
No.
Right.
There's enemies within Israel, and then there's
Right.
enemies outside of Israel.
Exactly.
Right?
Gotcha, okay.
And so, there's laws concerning both of them that we're supposed to go by, right? Because it says not to trust your enemy. So, you gotta have some discernment.
You said there's enemies within Israel and enemies without Israel, but then all Israel is not Israel either. So even within, there's two things that are separated. Also, when they've already chosen, if you will, when they've already chosen to walk amongst you as snakes, but as snakes they've already chosen to do that, then in my experience, leave them with the enemies without. Just go.
So sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to separate yourself. Not sometimes, kind of often.
Yeah.
Because we're stubborn and we're stiff-necked, and sometimes we're just not mature. So this whole walk and the lessons that we're learning is to grow us, right? So that we can work towards perfection or completion or to become more mature. And so sometimes we have to go through some things. Sometimes we're going to cause some offenses. But the scripture also says not to be easily offended, right? You know,
Plus, there's a process for that, right?
there is that.
Within Israel, there's a process.
That's right.
We already know it's Matthew 18, Yahweh 18.
Yeah.
Once you work through it, yeah, once you work through it, then at that point, I'm with you. Towards the tail end of it, you know what I'm talking about? Then, you know, it is what it is. You have to stay, you're the stage of heat, so.
Don't look back.
That's sometime I forgot which time, but it was when the two angels told
My man.
I forgot his name, but Lot and his family to not look back, and the wife looked back and she turned into a pillar of salt.
That's right. That's right. Man, give him something.
Donations?
The scripture says, any man that put his hands to the plow looking back is not worthy. So this is a forward lifestyle. Yes, we look to the ancient past, but I think that the point of it is not to be distracted on what it is that you're called to do, right? Press towards the high calling, the high mark that the Most High has purposed in your life. Just talked about this one. and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen have sought to take the likeness of their image. So we talked a little bit, or a whole lot, 2 lessons about the strong delusion of Christianity, and the commandments and teachings of men. Thinking you got your ticket already punched and you're going to heaven, and grandmom's up there watching you score touchdowns and shoot 3-pointers. It's all just a lie. And so the thing was press upon people to go and read for themselves without the influence of, pastor, your dad pastor, and grandpa was a pastor, and great-grandpa was a pastor. You need to put all that stuff aside, because your soul is on the line. Because we know that no one in the Bible, no one in the scriptures went to church on Sunday. I mean, start there. They all kept the Shabbat. We've had some babies.
Yes.
We had some babies, just the season of babies. Huh?
Interesting.
Up in the north.
All praise to the Most High.
Yes, all praise.
He's delivered them all in good health.
Dogs is a dog.
Yes, in good health.
Don't you disrespect. Don't disrespect my house.
Humans.
Baby.
But this is really where it starts. This is where the lesson starts, right? Because his eyes aren't open. Someone has said when how do you say her name?
Danya.
When they brought the baby to her.
Yeah, when she carried her baby, and she talked to him, he recognized her voice.
He recognized her voice. See, that's learning, right? That's part of it. And so, I mean, what a beautiful thing, right? And then their eyes open. And after that, you're just looking at everything.
Yes.
Taking it all in. And we start teaching them. Start teaching them about the birds, and y'all remember ever sitting there looking out the window, little baby, just kind of just learning all this stuff.
Yeah.
Then we're going to take her, go outside with mom or dad out into the big world. You see how he's holding on to his dad's shirt?
For dear life.
Yeah, he's holding on. We outside, but I'm holding on, right?
Comes from grip.
And then you start to discover books and knowledge, and you get to escape and have your mind.
Creativity.
And then they start to get about this age, and you start getting, the questions start to change a little bit about, the questions about life. You start asking some stuff. And you start to see yourself in them. Your habits, the things that you do, the things that you like, they kind of imitate you. And then sometimes they got real good teachers to influence them. My wife was influenced by some teachers. She holds them very dear to her heart. Are y'all familiar with the story of Les Brown?
Yes.
You're the only one?
Only reason why I noticed because I knew about Les Brown because my dad resembled him when he was coming up.
Wow.
And that's how I knew about Les Brown. So I knew about him when I was younger.
So Les Brown, when he was coming up, he had a twin brother, and they were adopted. And so one day, Les went into the classroom, and the teacher asked Les to do something on the chalkboard, and all the kids broke out laughing. And the teacher was like, "What's so funny?" And they were like, "That's Les. He's the dumb one."
Dang. That's tough.
Yeah, he's the dumb one. He was held back twice in school. He was labeled being retarded. And so, but the teacher planted some words in his head, and he said something to the effect like, don't ever let a person's opinion define who you are.
Yes.
That's what he said. Seeds were planted in Les's head. And so Les liked music. And so he went to go get a job at a radio station. And so he said he went to go apply for the job, and the man said, well, you know, we're not hiring right now. And so Les went back the next day and applied for the job again. He was like, sir, we'll go ahead and call you if we have it open. And he went back the next day, and the man said, didn't I tell you we're not hiring? And he went back again, and the guy said, go get me a cup of coffee. Okay? And he put him to work. And so he said that there was one day when the man that was the DJ could not perform his work because he got drunk. He called his boss, and the boss was like, call this other guy to get this other DJ in there. And Les said, okay, and hung up the phone. And then Les went in and got onto the radio station, called up all his friends, said, I'm about to go on the air. And he went on the air. And people loved him. Okay? Became a great radio guy. He ended up marrying Gladys Knight. Y'all all know who he is. Right? He was driving people around, didn't have no driver's license. Real funny story. But Les got into his mind, he wanted to be a motivational speaker. Les Brown wanted to find out how much he could make in 1 hour by speaking as a motivational speaker. $400,000 in 1 hour at the stadium full of people. Les Brown is going on to become a legend as a motivational speaker. I suggest you look him up and learn this story, because it's a great story of perseverance. It's a great story. But he was influenced by someone that put some words in his ear that grew. And so we meet people like that. And so we want to try to take on that. When we're planting these seeds, we want to take that on. And then it arrives, right? I'm 18. I'm 18. I'm 18. That day comes. See, when you're on this side of it and you're looking forward to it, you're thinking everything's, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do no more. I ain't gotta go inside that building no more. Some people have a plan, they're on a mission, they got some things. Some people going to have great success. That's not everybody's story. It wasn't my story. I didn't know what I was going to do after I did that. I just knew I was going to be happy I didn't have to do that no more. And then, you know, life happens, right? Life happens. How old do you think those men are?
40s,
Early 30s.
late 40s.
I say early 30s too.
Early 30s.
Yeah. You don't know what they've been on
Depends on what type
tape.
of lifestyle they have.
Stress will do it.
Yesterday when I was going home, I saw a man that I had seen 20 years ago. And he was pushing the suitcase down the street. Now, for maybe y'all know this, maybe you don't, but I've been homeless. But my mindset was intact. I wasn't going to stay homeless. And the definition of being homeless is just not having a place of your own. If you're shacked up with somebody, that in terms of the numbers, that's called homeless. Okay? If you're in between houses until you get your own place, that's called homeless. But then there's the homeless people that are not going to be able to pull themselves up. And so Nava and I, we worked with homeless people in the homeless ministry downtown here in San Antonio. She was on fire to save the world. She was going to get them all jobs and had a plan to hold their money with their paycheck to help them get a deposit to move into a place to get to the next step. Broke her heart when she found out that wasn't going to happen. People would come in, they would get new clothes, driver's license, new glasses, food, and come back the next day. The clothes, what happened to the clothes that I left them? A lot of them suffer from mental illness. And all it takes you, so maybe you might think, well, I'll never be there. I'll never be there. Huh. I've listened to these stories. And so, no one grows up and says, I want to be homeless.
No.
Sometimes it's because they didn't listen to the lesson. And they got to suffer the consequences of their actions, right? It's cold outside. One thing I discovered when you're homeless, everything, all the land is owned by somebody. That's when you discover how many trespass signs there are. Because there's no trespassing wherever you go. Most places where a homeless person has laid their head, a homeless person has already laid their head there. It may smell like urine, it may have needles around it. It's not an easy life. You get tired, you just want to take your shoes off, sit down someplace. It's about as close to being hopeless for some people as you can get, without hope. And so sometimes we complain about stuff, but we don't take the time to really consider a matter. Maybe somebody's suffering, right? And it happens to women too. Some women are abused by relatives. And they just get a raw deal starting out. And you don't know. But people are hurt. Sometimes it's the loss of a loved one. You see a lot of homeless people with their animals. They've been hurt by people so much, they don't trust people, but they hold on to those animals, they love those animals. That's their companion. It keeps them from losing it mentally. A man that I saw walking down the street has been walking down that street for 20 years. 20 years. So you don't know them, but you know that they're not in a good place. All right? Not in a good place. Sometimes it's due to pride. Y'all know our story between me and Ema. The first half of that marriage was, I was catching hell. Okay? I signed up for it too. How about that? That's how bred I was. So, Torah for me, for a person that was lawless, when I discovered Torah and I started to see how it would operate because I would apply the lesson that I learned, it changed my life. When we finally said we're not going to work on Shabbat, changed our lives. I said, let me try to apply something else. Let me learn something else, and apply it, it changes your life for the better. People try to hold on to their faith. All right? You meet a lot of religious homeless people. They can quote scripture left and right.
Big time.
Mhm.
Yeah, so can.
Yeah. But they're really hurting. You know, often you'll see that with homeless folks, like, got their head down. You know, they got despair.
Elder.
You know, when you said that about they read the Bible when I was an officer, and I, at the jail, you know, a lot of people, the Bible, because I took mine to work every night, but a lot of people were reading the Bible because that's the only thing they had to hold on to once they were in there. And you're right, they did learn and they quoted, and you know, for some people it was a transformation, but you know, without really knowing the truth, I wonder where they are now. But you're right, that's all they have in there.
Sure.
Some of them. So.
Sure. When people go into lockdown, that's when people become very spiritual.
Yeah.
I won't do it again, right?
Please help me.
Help me, help me, help me.
Yeah.
Right?
I said that.
And, yeah. Yeah. And so, they're people, and they got their own philosophies, like this man's philosophy, right? Never look down on anybody unless you're helping them up, and you know, I'm gonna guilt you into giving me some money. Some of them used to brag to us about how much money they can make by conning people out of money. But it's a hard life. It's a hard life. Eventually it takes its toll.
Dang.
Yeah. No words to describe it, right? And it makes a man become very callous and very hard. But sometimes it's the loss of a loved one when it may be all it takes to push a person over the edge. I shared with them the loss of your sister. And of course we grieve for you, but I thought about your mom to lose her mother and her daughter 3 days apart. Life will beat you up. Yeah. Because it's not no easy walk out there. That's the importance of getting the lessons so that you can avoid some of these things. There's going to be stuff to deal with. But we're all going to have to deal with something. That's how life is. And how you survive it will be determined by your mindset, right? It's just hard. It's just hard. Some people have to hold on to anything they can get their hands on, just not to lose it. And so we have Torah to hold on to. When I wake up, I thank the Most High for keeping me in my right mind. June 14th, started to say on Friday morning, a 24-year-old man from Chaska was pulled from Long Lake near Wadena after losing control while he was water skiing and hit his head. CPR was started and the man was brought to shore where deputies from the Case County Sheriff Department were able to regain a pulse. He was airlifted to Twin Cities Hospital. His condition is unknown. All he was doing was water skiing. Didn't think that was going to happen that day. Also on Friday, a 34-year-old man died after being run over by a pontoon boat. Nathan Waldo was boating with his friends on Big Sandy Lake when he fell off the front of the pontoon. Investigators believe he was pulled under and then run over by the propeller. The driver of the pontoon, 34-year-old Joshua Harvey, has been charged for boating while intoxicated. 34-year-old man. Somebody was probably hurt by that news, right? Saturday, there were at least 3 drownings. One of them was an 18-year-old. St. Cloud man who died after jumping into the Quarry at Quarry Park at Nature Preserve. Those he was with said Zachariah jumped feet first off the floating dock and never resurfaced. He reported having no swimming experience.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't swim.
Suicide?
18 years old. No, just an 18-year-old. Just 18, that's what an 18-year-old do.
Invincible.
Yeah. Also, on Saturday, a 46-year-old father died at William O'Brien State Park while playing with his kids. Witnesses at the scene said that Chandra bent over and never resurfaced. All he did was bend over. Went to the park with his kids. On Sunday, somebody reported a 9-year-old was missing at Carver Lake Park Beach in Woodbury. A police officer arrived on the scene, dove into the water, and pulled the child out. The child was later pronounced dead.
Just happened last week, they found the body of the father who jumped in and tried to save his, 3 children?
Yes.
Bay River.
Yes.
And they found him several days later. Another lady also attempted to help him. She ended up dying too. Trying to save the children. That just happened last week. They found the bodies this week.
Tragedy.
Just like that.
Tragedy. A woman is dead after a tree branch fell on her and her husband at the park. They went to the park. The branch broke.
That happened to a family friend of ours. Their young 3-year-old got struck by a tree at a park after a church service.
My goodness.
Are you all familiar with the daredevil Alex Harvey?
Yeah,
Harville?
he was
You saw it?
trying the stunt.
That's right. Passed away in a tragic motorcycle accident. He was 26 years old. Harville was practicing for the world record motorcycle ramp jump at the Grand Country International Airport. He was thrown from the bike. The daredevil was planning to break the record of 351. So when he landed, he didn't stick the landing, and it bounced, and he bounced off, and his helmet flew off, and he's dead. Mala lost his wife to cancer around 9 months ago. In fact, fate has been cruel to the 70-year-old farmer throughout his life. While his eldest daughter and her husband died a couple of years ago, his second daughter and her husband died recently due to COVID-19. Mali wanted to gift a new house to his youngest of 3 daughters and was upset at the revenue department. This is in India. Officials told him that he wouldn't receive it. So on Thursday, he stayed the night at his younger daughter's house. The neighbor saw him collect wood from the demolished house and thought he was wanting to go and sell it. They were in for a brutal shock when they realized that he was building a pyre. That's how you say that?
Pyre.
Pyre. Yeah, that's what I said. What's that? A 70-year-old farmer died by suicide on Friday.
So
That's
yeah,
so that's what he did. He built one of them, set himself on fire and killed himself. Because he was pushed over the edge. Let's get the script. Good Joe. We got last week we did a lot of reading, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Messiah, you do the honors?
Okay. Get that. This time I ain't gonna do the King James version. I'll do the Sefer. For family. There we go. Job chapter 1. And let me guess. Verse 1.
The whole chapter.
I got you.
We're not doing no verses no more. We gotta get context.
Got you. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name is Io, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim and eschewed him, eschewed evil.
So when it says that he was perfect, does that mean he was without sin?
No.
What's it mean?
He was
blameless.
Blameless. Is blameless without sin? So what's it mean?
Righteous intent.
You found you a good one.
patient.
Holly.
And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Io sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings, according to the number of them all. For Io said, it may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed Elohim in their hearts. Thus did Io continually. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came along among them. And Yahuwah said unto Satan, from whence come you? Then Satan answered Yahuwah and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahuwah said to Satan, have you considered my servant Io, that therein is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that fears Elohim and eschews evil? Then Satan answered Yahuwah and said, does Io fear Elohim for naught? Have not you made a hedge about him, about his house, and about all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth your hand now, and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. Yahweh said unto Satan, behold, all that he has is in your power. Only upon himself put not forth your hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of Yahweh. And there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Io, and said, the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them. And the Shebaim fell upon them, took them away, yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of their sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came another, and said, the fire of Elohim is fallen from heaven, and has burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them. And I only am escaped alone to tell you. while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the Kasdim, which is the Chaldees, came out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away, yea, the slain, the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell you. Then Ayov arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshiped and said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. Yahuwah gave, and Yahuwah has taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahuwah. And all this Ayov sinned, nor charged Elohim foolishly.
What a great lesson.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody, you could say, had a reason to be pushed over the edge, any one of those things. Any one of those things. So why am I talking about this today? Because as we move forward, things are not going to get easier. Things are going to get harder.
Right.
Things are going to become more difficult. We all know what's coming down the pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
And as we walk as together, as our mantra is, right, together, as an assembly, as mishpachah, there's going to be stress. There's going to be some challenges. And we got to have the correct mindset to make it through. And we have to consider these things. That way we can prepare ourselves. We got to talk about these things. We can't put our head in the sand and act like it's not happening. We have to get our homes in order. We got to get this house in order. We all know that's what Satan is, right? If my people which are called by my name shall humble. Heart. Stop, right? Stop right there. The definition of humble, having or showing a modest or low estate of one's own importance. Ema, you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head with the words that you spoke earlier. We've been awake for 30 seconds. We don't have we know in part. We don't know it all. We need to stop acting like as if we do. We have to stop acting as if we're puffed up. It hurts when I'm watching elders or mores arguing, and no one is saying, you know what, maybe I could be wrong. But rather be puffed up and continue to argue and be a poor example. The example that an elder and a more and people that are in leadership and men and priests of their home, what we're supposed to be displaying is humility. Because if we walk in humility, then we'll be the light and we'll be the salt. We're supposed to be here to serve one another. Not to be served, not to get the best pickings, not to get the cones up front in front of the door. similar to being meek, respectful, modest, of low social, administrative, or political rank. No, it's not about rank. Lowly, common, unimportant. Sometimes we think we got so much to say. It's not easy keeping our mouth shut, is it? It's work. Well, man, if we keep our mouth shut, we stay out of a whole lot of trouble.
Keep your mouth too shut, you still get into trouble. No, seriously. I was making a joke, but I mean, seriously. Sometimes you have to speak and you can't be scared to speak.
Absolutely.
You can agree with somebody if you keep your mouth closed, right?
Yes, Shamar used a very good expression. What did he say? He said,
I say the same a lot.
Yeah, it's like agreeing in silence or something like that.
Say even a fool, it seems wise when his mouth is closed.
right, but Shamar had, I had said something and he said, I can't be silent because of my silence is allowing me to be in agreement with what you're saying.
It's consent sometimes.
Consent. is the word.
Consent. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, sometimes.
That was wisdom. I wish I could remember it better. And you're absolutely right.
That's exactly what he said.
And so there's a balancing act, right? There's a balancing act. You ain't supposed to walk around keeping your mouth shut all the time. Right? How can you impart wisdom to somebody?
Right.
But you got to use some discernment.
That's what it all comes down to, the discernment, because even in Sirach, it does tell you at times, you know, instead of babbling about, sometimes you need to remain quiet, you know, but I think that's where you have to have wisdom. You know, maybe it's somebody who is the know-it-all, they know everything, and so they always have an opinion to give out, so sometimes your opinion just isn't important. Let's just be quiet, and you're wiser when you just listen. And then, you know, sometimes like you said, you know, somebody's speaking and you know they're in error, perhaps, you know, you consent and you allow everybody else to believe what they're saying versus if you have information, you know, you need to speak up and just speak up, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. So, you know, we have our lessons. We have walked through understanding the feast days. We've walked through examining ourselves to make sure that we are in the faith. We've walked through how we are supposed to treat one another. And I just wanted to remind us, you know, it's a life lesson. And we got one shot to get it right.
That's it.
We got one shot. We're all going to give an account. And so we know what the commandments are. We know what the instructions are. And so we have to remind ourselves what those instructions are to make sure that we are doers of the word and not just hearers only. The commandment is love Elohim with all your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's the charge we got to keep. My people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. Then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. It's a promise, but it starts with if. He'll do his side of the promise. We just got to do our side. Sometimes we can confuse being attacked with being chastised. We just read last week about the gardener that prunes. That if you are in him and part of that branch, part of the process that we're going to be pruned. We're going to have some things cut off. It may feel like it may feel like an attack, but it could be a chastisement. When Nava and I, we lived in Live Oak, I went out and I chopped down all her plum bagels. I didn't know. Oh, these stupid branches. I cut them down, she came out, she cried. About 3 months later, there was plum bagels all over the place. Beautiful. Sometimes it's just a matter of proving. Did you enjoy coming today? You did?
Except for I have a toothache.
Oh.
But I loved it.
He got a good man. Did he tell you our story?
Yes.
He did? Well, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna tell them.
Well, I don't know what in particular you're speaking about, but yeah.
So we came into the truth around the same time. He came in before I did, into the awakening, you know, however you want to call it. So the way that I met him is I put an ad on Craigslist for a network marketing company called SolarBang. It's a phone service that paid you money. So he responded because he used to be in the cell phone business. And that's how we hooked up. I went down to Corpus, I met him. Then the company went under and left. And then I didn't hear from him. Because he found out about Torah and didn't tell nobody. And then I called him.
One side.
I called him, and I'm like, I'm sharing with him, hey man, you know, this Torah thing. He's like, brother, I already know. I'm like, what? Most High works in a mysterious way. He didn't.
But that wasn't the whole
The truth was, like, he kept on coming with more and more and more ideas, and all these events were on the Sabbath. And I already knew, because I dealt with my own family and my own loved ones, it's not received very well. So I had a lot of love for Brother Yohanan, so I was like, man, I cannot just tell him this over the phone. I need to tell him in person. So I would pray about it and just pray about it. And every time he would do it, I couldn't explain. He's like, wait, no, I can't. And then he didn't know. Then when he called, I remember I was sitting down on the floor. I was sitting on the floor on the couch right there. And he goes, bro, he said, what up, Hebrew? And I smiled. I was like, what? Did you know we're Hebrews? I'm like, yeah, I already knew. I'm like, so I listened to him and he was so excited. And my answers were prayed and I felt great. And that was like one of the best things in a long time that ever happened to me. Because I got a lot of love for that man right there.
Yeah.
He was there when I went through the divorce. My wife left me because I chose to follow the Most High.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, it comes at cost, right? But the takeaway for today is when you apply the lessons, things work. That'll fix everything. It fixes relationships. It fixes marriages. It fixes things on the job. It fixes how you have relationship with other people. It just fixes it all. And so, but we got to be long suffering. We got to be patient. We got to be kind. We got to be meek. We got to be gentle as we grow together. That's what it says. Now we just got to do it. And sometimes we fail to be as honest with one another as we should be, because we don't want to hurt someone. This is what we need to take into consideration. Is yes, we've been together we've been walking as a family now for just a little while, and yes, we've grown to love one another. But we're all very different. we got a lot more growing to do.
Yeah.
We got a lot more growing to do. And so with that, that's my lesson. Does anybody have any comments, any questions?
I just want to share a verse. Romans 5:19, for as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous.
Wow.
So when you were speaking, that's the word obedience just popped into my mind. I think that if it's just obedient
Yes.
to the laws, the
Yeah.
statute and the commandments, like
Yes.
you said, everything will fall into place.
Yes, I agree. Our problem, our challenge is that when we understand, again, we know in part, and we come from different places and different issues. So how you interpret it and how I interpret it, sometimes we don't come to the same interpretation. And that's where we have to be like the Bereans, right? We gotta reason this thing out. We gotta come from a place of not being right. Let me assume that I'm wrong. Let me make that assumption so I can learn. And I'll do my best to see it from your point of view. You do your best to see it from my point of view. And if we don't agree at the end of the day, that's okay too. We're not gonna agree on everything, right? We're not gonna agree on everything. But none of us have the ability to put anyone into the lake with snakes. That's all up to the Most High. He's the concern of our hearts, right? That's his job. That ain't our job.